We live in a modern and digital world, which is all based on software. The software is eating our world. You will find it in our smartphone, trains, washing machine, and etc. You will basically find it everywhere. Software is a set of programs that enable the hardware to perform a specific task. But what is a program and how does it work? A program is a sequence of instructions in a programming language that your computer can execute or interpret. It describes the process flow which your computer goes through to process the data. For building your program, you just need some simple logic. You will need output and input devices, a computer, a programming language in which you describe the process flow in a language that your computer understands. Let's have an example. A contacts app on an Android device. First of all, you should know what your program does. How do you get the inputs? What is the type of inputs? How do you store and process the data? And what is the output that you give to your user? When you start thinking about it, it's a very complex process. And before you start building your program, you should have a clear path. Let's go back to our contacts apps and see how does our process flow look like. For this program, you will need a place where you can store your data on it, some inputs field, and some buttons. When you start your program, you will see 4 buttons with different options. The first one is for adding a contact, the second one is for showing your contacts, the third one is for searching for a contact, and the last one is for exiting the program. When you press the button Add, the program will open a page with 3 input fields and 2 buttons. When you press the button Add, the program will see if your inputs are valid inputs. That means you should fill up all 3 fields, and the name that you entered should not exist in the database. When your inputs are correct, the program will save the data and navigate you to the starting menu. When you press the button All Contacts, the program will navigate you to a page where you can see all your contacts that are in your database. This page contains a button that navigates you to the main menu, and below of every context you will find a remove button. If you press that button, it will delete the contact from your database. If you do not have any contacts in your database, you will receive a message that your database is empty, and the program will navigate you to the main menu. If you press the button Search, it will open a page with 2 buttons and 1 input field. When you press the button Search, the program will check if you entered any input in the field. If so, the program will go through your database and will find the contact that you searched for. If there is a contact with that name, you will get the data of this contact and also a remove button. If there is no contact with the entered name, you will get a message that says there is no contact with the entered name. The button Exit will save the changes, and after that it will close the app. Now that we have our process flow, we can start to build our program, which means we should translate our process flow into a language that your computer understands. You see, our computers process data. That means they change your data due to some conditions, which is declared by the person who built the program. Let's have an example of how we can translate the process flow into a programming language. We have a list of numbers, and the user gives us an input, the number X, and he or she wants to see if the number is in the list. If it's so, he or she gets a message on the screen which says, the number X is in the list. Otherwise, he or she gets a message which says, the number X is not in the list. Let's say the input is 28, but how can we find out that the number does exist in the list? Of course you can see with the look that the number 28 does exist in the list. But for our computers, the list is like a book and every page of this book contains only one number. So what we can do is, we will go throughout every page and we'll compare the input with the number on each page. If we are on the last page of this book and we still did not find the number, we know that the number does not exist in the list. The translation of this process in a programming language like Java looks like this. You will need 3 things to build a program. The first thing is a variable. You can store things on a variable. It could be a number, text, boolean, or even an object. For our example, we need 3 variables. In the first one, we have stored our list. The second one is the input number, and the third one is a variable that stores only true or false. We will need these variables to find out if the number X does exist in the list. How to make a decision? That is the second thing you should know. In our example, you will check the input number with the number on the page, and that is how you decide to change a variable is it in a list. You can do it with if else statement. The last thing that you need to know is how to make loops. Sometimes you should do the same process again and again and again. You should not write the same code 10,000 times, so with the loops you can do the same process as many times as you want. Let's pack everything up and see how can we find out if the number is in the list. With the for loop, we will go through the list, and with the if statement, we will compare the input number with the number on the page. If they are the same, we will change the value of variable is it in the list to true, and we will break out of the loop. After that, we will check if the value of variable is it in the list is true. If so, we will write the message the number x is in the list. Otherwise, we will print the message the number x is not in the list. Now that we know how we can translate our process flow, we can go back to our context apps and build the logic for our program. First of all, we need a place where we can store our data on it, and a data structure. We will not build our own data structure, rather we will use the data structure that the developers of the programming languages like Java or Python offered us. You need a data structure to process your data, which means you can add data to your data bank or remove it. When you start the program, it will load the data into our data structure, and it will open the main activity page. With an if and else statement, you can make those buttons functional. If someone clicks on them, the program will navigate them to the right page. Let's say the user pressed the button add. The program will navigate them to the right page and wait until they press a button. If the user pressed the button add, we will check with the if statement if he or she entered the input. If so, we will use a for loop and we'll go through every contact in our database, and we will see if there is a contact with the entered name. We can check that with the same method that we used to find out if the number is in the list. If everything is fine, we can add the contact in our database. Otherwise, the user will get a message that says you should change the name of the contact. If the user presses the button all contacts, first of all we will check with an if statement if we have any contacts in our database. If so, we will use the function show the contacts to show all the contacts on the screen. If the user decided to press the button remove, we will remove the contact from the database. If there is no contact in the database, the user gets a message that says the database is empty. The next button is search. If the user presses it, the program will navigate them to the search page and ask them for a name. If the user pressed the button search, the program will check if the user entered any input. If so, we will get the name and we will use the search method to find out if there is a contact with the entered name. The last button is exit. This button will save the changes and will close the app. And that is how every program is built. You need a clear path and you should translate it to the computer. Building a program is like everyday life. You have some cases and you should handle them. For every decision that you make, there is a response. Our world is based on our computers, so stay with Electron where we try to explain the logic behind our computer with a simple language. Please subscribe to the channel, and if you like it, then like it.